For more on Secretary of State Rubio's trip to Israel and the tensions in the Middle East, let's bring in retired four-star General Jack Keane, Fox News senior strategic analyst. He is live from Tel Aviv. Give us your assessment of this attack in Qatar. It did kill a number of Hamas leaders. They've been hanging out there, living the good life, Israel says. They're not alive anymore, General. Give us your sense of whether this attack, from a military standpoint, was it worth it?
Well, first of all, this is the senior headquarters of Hamas, and they have been in residence for years in Qatar. What are they doing there? Why is Qatar even putting up with something like this? Qatar, as we all know, has been funding Hamas for years. And this public exposure of this attack, I think, is renewing an engagement about Qatar and what are their motivations here. They try to be the arbitrator and negotiator between Hamas and Israel. But if you're hosting, and I say hosting, Hamas's senior headquarters for years in your country, are you indeed supporting that organization? And if you're financing their ability to fight against Israel, are you supporting that organization? Have you really taken a side? I think they have. And the evidence speaks clearly to it. So Israel has a right to take down the headquarters of the very enemy that not only directed and approved and financed the attack on October the 7th. And that's the reality here. Now, whether the timing was the best or not, I leave that up to the Israelis. They know what's taking place out here. We could sit back an ocean away and say to ourselves, well, we're negotiating, we're trying to make a deal. Is that the best time to do this? I leave that to the Israelis. And what's driving them? The people were together. When's the next time they're ever going to be together? I don't know what the tactical situation is, and sitting back and trying to second guess it, I don't think that's right. I defer to the Israelis on this. These are the senior leaders that started October the 7th and have been opposed to Israel and trying to destroy the state of Israel for years. And they certainly have a right to take them down. We felt we had the right to fly into Pakistan, a sovereign state, without Pakistan's approval, and kill Osama bin Laden after he killed 3,000 of our Americans. We felt an obligation and a duty to do that. And I think that's kind of where the Israelis are on this.
Yeah, that's an apt comparison, I think. You know, the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, has taken a lot of blowback, even from some of his own people, about this attack, because the families of the Israeli hostages are afraid this means that their loved ones will never come home. Even Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, was asked, you know, whether this means that we have asked Israel not to do this kind of thing again, because there was some displeasure expressed from the White House. Listen to his reaction.
I think the president's comments speak for themselves on that front. In essence, he didn't like the way it went down. But that said, it's not going to shake. Our relationship with Israel is going to remain strong. And sometimes, you know, things happen or come up in those relationships that perhaps you're not 100% aligned with or what have you. But it's not going to change the nature of our relationship with the Israelis. But we are going to have to talk about it. Primarily, what impact does this have? What happened? What impact does that have moving forward on what comes next?
President Trump has said he would like to see some kind of a peace deal. Do you think that this sets back that peace deal, or the fact that, you know, so many Hamas leaders are now in coffins, does that perhaps motivate them to try to get to the table?
Yeah, well, a couple of points. What you started with, John, I think is a valid one. Prime Minister Netanyahu has had disagreements with U.S. policies, and President Trump hasn't agreed with everything Prime Minister Netanyahu is doing, but they don't let that interfere with U.S. unequivocal support for Israel, not just materially, but also our moral support for them and standing up for their rights to do this. And even though there's some disagreements, listen, fighting a war like this is complicated, and certainly there are different opinions that are arguable on both sides. But both of these presidents, one president, one prime minister, do not let that materially interfere with the relationship, because they have a common objective here: the survival of Israel and the defeat of its enemies in this region once and for all. And that is the motivation. Will it set back negotiations temporarily? I think so, but not permanently. Why? Because Hamas certainly wants to survive. Their leaders want to survive here, and they're using the hostages to do that. And we're getting down towards the end. And at the same time, Prime Minister Netanyahu is not going to permit Hamas to stay in charge of Gaza. That is not tolerable. That means another October the 7th of some dimension at some time. And he wants to take them off the board once and for all. And at the same time, get the remaining hostages out and the deceased hostages as well. And at times, both of those things are working against each other. And I understand that, and so do the people of Israel. But the objectives are clear here. Hamas has got to go, and we got to get the hostages home. I do agree with the principle that by putting more pressure on Hamas militarily as they begin to start this operation in Gaza City does loosen up Hamas in terms of their negotiations positions. And I'm hopeful that is what takes place here, that a deal can be made. The president is right. He wants a deal here from our country, and he's doing everything he can to facilitate that. It remains to be seen where Hamas is going to be on that. Are they willing to walk away from governing Gaza and put down their arms and do this? If they're not willing to do that, it's unlikely we're going to get any kind of substantive deal.
General Jack Keane in Israel. General, we always appreciate your insights. Thank you.